Hello and welcome to Guy Logic. My name is Temco and today we are taking a look at a game called Alekhine's Gun. The game is coming out for PC on March 11th and for consoles on March 1st. The game has been delayed a couple of times, so let's hope that is for a good reason. What is the game, you ask? Well, it's basically Hitman Blood Money, if you remember that, which is a stealth action spy assassination game, which combines a bit of open world elements with targeted map areas where you have an objective and you have a variety of ways of completing that objective, and based on the way you complete it, you are scored. Before we dive into the game, we're going to first look at the options menu. If you do not want to hear me talk about options for the next 5 or so minutes, I suggest you press the annotation that has appeared on screen and skip straight ahead to the gameplay section. We, on the other hand, are going to look in the options menu and talk performance. Performance-wise, the game runs absolutely fine, but it comes at a cost of visual fidelity. The game does not look as if it was a game from 2016. In fact, it looks more like a game from 2014 or 2012 in terms of visual fidelity and texture quality. Is this a very bad thing? No, I can run this game at 300 FPS at maximum settings, which is definitely something I enjoy on my GTX 780. But there is no way to crank up the settings any further, which might be something you enjoy if you have a high-end machine. Let's go into video options and see what is going on. Language-wise, there's a couple of languages: English, German, French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and Russian. That's a pretty nice set of languages there. You can select the type of display driver you want to use, which is pretty good. I obviously use my GTX 780. I'm not going to use the onboard graphics card. That would be kind of insane. Resolution-wise, it goes quite far, but my monitor does not support higher than 1080, so we're going to keep it at that. Aspect ratio, we're going to keep this to auto. You can change the aspect ratio should you for some reason desire that. I'm not sure why they include this option. Yes, it's nice, but it doesn't really serve a purpose. VSync, if you find that sort of thing interesting. I have not noticed any screen tearing in the game whatsoever, and you can turn it off, which is fine. Anti-aliasing is a bit of a weird one. It either has simple, normal, or off. It doesn't explain to me what these are. I'm not sure if this is FXAA, SMAA, or some other form of AA. I am assuming this is FXAA times 2 and FXAA times 4, but I am not sure on that. I assume that because FXAA looks kind of blurry around the edges, so that might be a thing. Gamma, you can change that, which is always good. Filters for post-production, dynamic shadows, ambient occlusion, and HDR rendering, all really good. If you head to the sound options, the sound volume mostly has what you would request: volume, ambient, effects, and music. No master volume, which is a bit of a shame, but that in essence is fine. The omniscient here on these two is colorblind, and a way to change the game from full screen to windowed or borderless full screen. So that is not available. The game just runs in full screen. I have no idea why they picked this decision, but such is the fact. So you can't play it in windowed, you cannot play it in borderless windowed either, and it does not have color blind mode, which is something that might be a problem for you because the game does require quite a bit on cues you get from the environment and the world. And if you can't see those properly because of lightning or stuff like that, you could run into some trouble. And the game does love its red colors, so there's that. Mouse sensitivity and inverting y-axis, it is there. Another thing though, VSync, for some reason, if you go to VSync, if you turn it on, it turns on mouse smoothing in a very weird way. It has this weird mouse acceleration and smoothing. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm hoping that's a bug and they fix it before launch, but be noted, you should definitely not turn on VSync if you have any issues with such a thing. And honestly, you should as a PC gamer. And we are going to keyboard. All these keys are fully rebindable on mouse and keyboard, which is fine. It shows most keys that you have available, so that is pretty good. And you also can use an Xbox controller. The game is also coming on consoles, so this is not unexpected. I do not use an Xbox controller, so I cannot tell you if it is any good on that. But nonetheless, it is there. So that brings us to the end of the options menu. No very big omissions outside of windowed or full screen mode and color definition mode. The rest is pretty much there as you'd expect. Maybe some extra tips would have been nice, maybe some different ways to include tooltips or some optional things that could make the game harder or easier for you if you are finding a bit of trouble passing a certain level. But overall, the options menu is acceptable. One thing I am missing, as I said earlier, is a way to increase the graphical fidelity of the game, either to a HD texture pack, a ultra pack, or some other way to upload bigger textures. It just isn't there, and the game suffers for it visually. Now, we're gonna go ahead and do continue game. Actually, this is a new game. This is pretty interesting. So there's 11 levels, and I'm about, I think, 20 hours in this game so far. And I've beaten 4 and I'm into a 5th. Now, I've done some of these levels 4 or 5 times just to see what's going on here and there for this review. And I must say that these levels have quite a bit of depth to them. There is a wide variety of ways you can do things, even though the objectives always stay the same. Obviously, you can change in 4 different difficulty levels, and I'm playing an easy because I am terrible at these sort of games and I actually want to progress and show you guys something worthwhile to show. But there's 11 levels, so I think if you're really good at stealth games and you play this in hard mode, you'll have between 10 and 20 hours of content. And then you have some replayability to optimize the levels or do challenge runs and the like to see how well you can fare just doing a no aggro run, or a full stealth run, or a full machine gun run, or something like that. So there is definitely some replayability here, but it does not have the amount of content that Hitman Blood Money had. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into a mission, and we're gonna start with Ghost of the Past because I like this mission for 2 reasons. It's the first mission, so I'll spoil very little for you, and it also introduces all of the base concepts of the game. So let's go ahead and dive into Ghost of the Past. And you have these 4 difficulties, as I said. Easy, which says you can change clothing. The AI is very slow to react. You gain more health, and it shows you a bunch more tips. Normal mode is the same, but the AI reacts faster, and you do not have the increased health. Hard mode, this is an interesting one. Obviously, the AI reacts faster, and you get fewer tips in regards to what's going on. But more important than that, you can only change clothes if you take someone down in a non-lethal fashion. So in the other 2 modes, you can shoot someone in the back of the head, take his clothes, and nothing is going on. If you do that on hard mode, you cannot take his clothes. So this is the major difference in difficulty that is really going to make or break your run through a level in many cases. And then you have extreme, which, I mean, if you're a masochist, this is your difficulty level. You cannot change clothes at all in any situation, but the AI and the like are your this is normal way. You do get a rating and weapon bonus, so I'm not sure how you could do these things outside of a full run and gun mode, but I'm sure somebody on YouTube is going to try, and you could probably find their videos on that when the embargo lifts. I'm going to be doing this on easy because I am terrible at these sort of games, so let's go ahead and do easy. Next up, they're going to give us a cutscene. These cutscenes introduce the story, introduce the champions, and these cutscenes are an amazing slideshow of this LA noir feel. They're pastel, bright colored, coupled with these big lines, and everything's a slideshow, and they overlap in a very interesting fashion. They're also narrated by some people that have their lines down to a T. The accents fit, the way they talk fits, everything really feels authentic, and that is really, really important to me always. So this is really good that they have this sort of thing. So we're gonna up the volume a little bit, and you can hear the game in its best audio.
23 years in the CIA, and this is where I end up.
As you can see,
What kind of man?
the cutscene uses this interesting overlay mix. For example, you see these 2 people here. Now it shifts to red, and you can now see a gun appear from the right side. That was obviously there before if you focused on it and knew where to look. But the way they do contrast with these black and gray and reds is really well done, and the entire game and all its cutscenes are done in this fashion. So I really enjoy that. They tell a really interesting story as well. So I'm gonna skip this ahead, and now you are at the first level. Now before you start your level, it gives you the mission where you need to look at and see what happens. My mission is 4-fold. I need to sneak inside the castle. I need to eliminate Martin Fincher, and it gives you a little bit of a biography on who he is or was. Then I have to destroy some magnetic tape, and then I have to eliminate Dr. Hans Heydrich. So all of that, pretty interesting, right? Okay. If I press continue, it's gonna load me into the game. But first I have to select my outfit, I should say. So this is part of the game where I'm not so sure about if they thought this through. I have 53 upgrade points. That's because I bought a bunch of stuff. For example, let me see. I bought a Mosin sniper rifle for 500 RP. And I can now unlock this for the next mission. So once you unlock missions and you come back to them, you will have more weapons and items unlocked. For example, there is a Walter PPK, which is a gun. I also have a silencer gun, which is the high standard HDM. I have no idea if that was an actual gun, but it is right now. And I can equip that. And I have a gun that is silenced. You have 6 equipment slots. Mine are currently equipped for chloroform, which has 2 charges. A garrote, which will obviously kill people in a takedown fashion. So you can still use their clothes if you do that. I have a gun with 2 ammo clips, a combat knife, a gun with a silencer. And you can see the difference. The noise here is very low compared to this gun's noise. And the accuracy is the same. But my fire rate on this gun is a little bit faster than the fire rate on this gun. So overall, and if I go to my Mosin sniper rifle, the noise is humongous, the accuracy is great, the range is great, but the fire rate is very low. So I'm not gonna equip the Mosin sniper rifle. I'm just gonna go with these 5 items. And you can say, well, you want to upgrade your item? If you go to upgrade, you can upgrade, for example, with a silencer, which is one of the upgrades available. There's 2 more upgrades which are currently not available, and you have to spend RP to do that. So the game has a bit of a customization in terms of weapons. And once you unlock weapons and you get back to a certain level or a certain map, you can try doing different weapons or different item combinations. Maybe you want to do a full unarmored run. And there's quite a few achievements in the game that allow you to do exactly that. So let's go ahead and start our mission, and I'll run through the game and explain what is going on here and there. Now, I've pre-recorded the start of this mission for 2 reasons. One, I am terrible at talking and doing brain-intensive things at the same time, and I don't want to miss anything. And secondly, is because I'm suffering from a cold, and I do not want to sneeze and blow my nose in the middle of a recording. So, as soon as we press start mission, it's going to be a pre-recorded bit, and I'll show you what is going on. Let's get to it. Before we dive into the gameplay during this loading screen, I would like to mention that after recording and rendering all the gameplay, I noticed a slight stuttering in certain situations in the rendering, which was never there during the gameplay sections. So keep that in mind, that the game performs just fine without any stuttering, but it may be a result of the recording software that I use, which is DxStory, messing up because it had VSync disabled to prevent the game's actual mouse smoothing. So just so you're aware, the game performs fine at humongous amounts of FPS, but the recording software sort of messed up that with frame stuttering. So let's get into some gameplay. When you first start, the game asks you if you want to do a tutorial. I've skipped no right here, but generally if you're starting the game for the first time, I suggest you do take the tutorial, because it does explain quite a few things you will need to progress in the game. The tutorial is pretty useful, but most of it is text-based and overlay-based, so you might not get the necessary information you need from that per se. Now, this mission has 4 parts. First, get in the castle, kill the commander, get some magnetic tapes and destroy them, and then kill the scientist. And I found 4 ways to do this mission in its various steps. You have to do all 4 steps, but there are a couple of ways you can do that. The way I'm going to show you here is what I think is the most efficient way to do this, provided you don't mess up. Now, the game consists out of a couple of elements, and like you'd expect from most stealth games. It consists out of a way to kill enemies lethally without gunplay. This is the garrote or the combat knife. Additionally, on higher difficulties, the garrote allows you to use their clothing. The combat knife will not. Secondly, the game allows you to non-lethally kill enemies. You can do so using chloroform, or you can choke them out using the garrote without killing them. Both of these mean the enemy is not dead, and it does not count to your kill count, which is necessary if you want to get the highest possible stealth rating. Now, this mission in particular also has a hidden objective, which is releasing this American CIA soldier from the prison. You can also take the clothing of enemies, like I've done in this case with the clothing of a soldier. This allows me to move freely among soldiers up to a certain point. You can also change clothing back and forth between various situations, and obviously you can take the clothes of different types. You cannot take the clothes of everyone. For example, there's a maid in this castle. I cannot take her clothes. Besides her being female and me male, There's also a couple of entities you cannot take clothes of in general. So I'm not sure why the developers chose to do that. I'm gonna assume these are resource and time budget constraints, but such is the situation. You'll also note that enemies get suspicious of you because you're patrolling in areas where they do not expect you to be. This is because they don't really want a soldier in their patrol area. They're not used to you being there. So there'll be an exclamation mark on the top of your screen that will notify them should something be up. If that bar fills up, they will start shooting at you. If you get away out of screen or out of the area they're telling you to get out of, the bar will decrease. But, and this is important, this will count against your score later on. Now, when you kill someone and you want to hide their body, you can do so in a dark corner. But the game doesn't really provide you with a ton of options, much like Hitman does or many other stealth games do, to hide them in areas around the map. What I'd expect in this specific area is maybe hunt them down in the middle of that well, or maybe in these crates I put them behind. The game doesn't allow for that, which is of a letdown. What the game does allow you to do though is move corpses obviously, and strip them of clothing and strip them of items. So if you, certain maps, if you load up with a machine gun for example, the guards will instantly start shooting at you because you're a civilian and you have a gun. But if you loot a gun from a guard, or you kill a guard and then pick up your gun you have dropped, they will not shoot you, because then you are a soldier, obviously. Now using the map, you can track your main targets and when they're positioned. Target 1 is the boss. Now obviously I know this level from the top of my head, so I know he's gonna come to this courtyard, which is why I'm positioned here and waiting on him. And you can see, this is classical stealth gameplay. I'm tracking my enemy. The red dots are soldiers. You can see them based on where you are. So for example, I cannot see the soldiers in that area around here, but I can see them in the courtyard because that is where I am as well. See, there he goes. He's suspicious of me because he's not sure what I'm doing here. He did not expect a soldier to be here, at least not one that isn't patrolling. And he's not sure where his patrolling soldier went to. I've closed the door to prevent others from seeing me, and I'll use a crouch and a garrote to kill him. Now, I want to pull your attention to the top left of the screen, which is where you see my compass. I'm not sure why they implemented both a very detailed map as well as a compass. The compass points you in the general direction you should be going to for the game. But the compass doesn't point you is the level or the rooms. But you can easily use the map at any given time to do that. This is not a speedrunning game, nor is this a game where you cannot use a map. So there's really no reason to have this sort of compass mode in here. I don't mind it, it fits there and you can sort of orientate yourself a bit on it if you're not sure of the level, but it's not necessary. Now, you see I have taken the officer's clothes, which will allow me to enter different parts of the level more easily than I have to go sneaking around. In fact, this is quite necessary, because the next part I want to go to is a room with the hidden documents I have to destroy, and that room is only allowed for officers. Now, this means though, that even though the game says it is non-linear, it still requires you to do certain things in a certain way. Now, granted, I could have taken out any other officer, there's several in the map, instead of this one, but obviously it is more efficient to take down two birds with one stone in taking down these officers. And that's the only time I couldn't enter this area, which has access to the safe I'm now cracking, which is a pretty nice, interesting mechanic. Do not exactly very hard, because you just spin around until you get the right color. The same goes for different locks. And then do this objective. Now, I want to also drag your attention while I'm running around here to two more things. The interaction with various objects is quite limited. Again, this is the same with clothes and disguises. You can only interact with a very select few items. You can interact with some light switches, with some levers to turn on and off light. You can interact with some preset objects such as notes or quest items. You can interact with doors, and you can use walls and objects as cover. You can't really like pick up a lamp or knock down a suit of armor to create noise, or use environmental objects like that. The game doesn't allow for that, and it's not designed for that in mind. And I understand that from a limited development budget and time standpoint, but I am sort of saddened that this is not part of the game, which is something I really enjoy in other games like this, that allow you to interact with quite a few objects, let you pick up items, and so on and so forth. What I will give the game though is its atmosphere. As you can see earlier in the cutscene, the LA Noire feel, the Cold War feel, the Second World War feel, the game has the theme down to a T. It feels very solid. The first level is set in 1943 during the height of the Second World War, and it does really feel like that. You can see this old SS castle for the Nazi party. You see the technology you'd expect them to have during that time period. The weapons are pretty authentic for that time period. So overall, they've done a really good job on nailing the theme down. What I will also commend them for is the game's performance. I have recorded this at right about 300 FPS on maximum settings. Pretty good, right? What I will not commend them for, and you've probably seen it so far, is the quality of graphics. The animations are pretty decent, and the character models are okay, but the wall, floor, door, and object textures are actually pretty saddening. They could have definitely used a higher texture pack or better resolution. Or even a couple of passes with normal maps, bitmaps, or height maps. It really does pull the game down a few notches from something you'd expect in today's market of games being released into something that could have been released 3 or even 4 years ago, which is a shame. Now, each level, as I said, has several ways to finish it. When I first did this map, I did this by knocking out the power generator, which is the floor below here, and then waiting until they come down and then running up and shooting you in the head. This time I found a note, and I can use that note to phone up and have the officer that is in the room with the scientist come down, and then the scientist alone, I can kill him. Pretty cool, right? So the game does give you several ways of completing a level, and based on how you do it, coupled with how many additional kills you make, the game gives you a score, from amateur to ghost. Which is pretty cool. You can really see and improve your gameplay, and by repeated attempts, it will allow you to try out various different things. Now, one of the things the game does allow is for you to try and blend in with your surroundings. As you can see, I now have an exclamation mark above my head as well. What is going on here? Well, nothing really special. They just don't know what is going on. Now, because this is easy mode, I had plenty of time to run away. If this was hard mode, I would probably be dead rapidly. So the game does have you give you some This is interesting because I really messed up here. Besides having no chance to use my garrote, I also got found out by a guard. And he shot several times. I did kill the doctor, so my objective completed. And then I followed my controls, and I have to shoot these soldiers. And you think, well, they're dead, that's fine. You made a couple extra kills? No, because their guns alerted the rest. For gunplay, I am not thrilled with the game. The guns don't really feel great. They don't have a lot of force behind them. They sort of feel like Pop-Tarts, and that's a bit of a shame. I wish they would have spent a little bit more time on getting the guns to feel better, instead of having them feel like subpar pea shooters, including the machine guns and the heavier guns, so that's a bit of a shame. What I will tell you though, is that the game is definitely not focused around the fighting in terms of gunplay. It is really designed around stealth with an option to do gunplay. What I will also give the game credit for is its interesting use of a variety of mechanics regarding stealth and blending back in after being discovered. The game doesn't instantly fail you. It does allow you to try and salvage a situation should that prove possible. For example, I just switched back to soldier's clothing. They knew I was an officer that's been radioed down, but they didn't know I switched to soldier. I could get out and run away. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so to give you my conclusions on Alekhine's gun, the gameplay from a stealth game perspective is pretty good. The non-linearity and replayability of the levels is pretty good. The choices, story, art style, theme, and setting are damn good. The amount of interactable items, the amount of gunplay and stealth play available is pretty limited, so that's a bit of a shame. What is also a shame is the lack of interactable objects, so I don't like that. But the biggest thing I feel draw this game back is the low fidelity of the graphics. I don't see a reason for them to be this bad, and while graphics normally don't detract from the gameplay, it is mostly because overall all graphics look fine, but in this game they just really look a bit outdated, and that does pull away from the experience quite a bit. Now, overall, I have enjoyed my time with Alekhine's gun. I have not finished the game, I have replayed some of the levels several times to try out various things, and the game will give you about 20 hours of play time. So overall, enjoyable, but only if you really like the Hitman Blood Muddy type of gameplay. Once you complete the level, you will get a score. This score will reflect on how well you did, and you will get some RP points. These allow you to unlock upgrades and weapons for next attempts at either this mission or different missions down the line. Alekhine's gun is coming out on PC on March 11th. It is out on consoles on March 1st. And if you like this video, you can press the like button. If you didn't like this video, you can press the dislike button. And if you want to see more content like this on the channel, just press that subscribe button and we will deliver. And I wish you a good day, and until next time, right here on Guy Logic.